This company didn't collapse because its technology failed. The system worked exactly as designed, at a scale no one had ever controlled before. What failed was the assumption that growth could replace responsibility. At its peak, this platform connected more than 2 billion people. Governments used it. Journalists depended on it. Families trusted it. And inside its walls, few believed anything was truly wrong. Then, trust collapsed. Not slowly, not quietly. It fractured across elections, communities, and nations, exposing how much power had been concentrated without oversight. By the end of this story, you'll understand the specific decision that transformed a social network into a global liability, and why the damage was inevitable long before anyone noticed. They had elite engineers, advanced data systems, unprecedented insight into human behavior, and internal warnings that clearly outlined the risks. But none of it mattered, because the system rewarded engagement, not accuracy, growth, not restraint. And once that logic was embedded, reversing it meant dismantling the entire business. To understand how this unfolded, we need to go back to a moment when nothing felt dangerous, when the goal was connection and the consequences were still invisible. In its earliest years, Facebook felt less like a company and more like an inevitability. Growth wasn't forced. It arrived organically, spreading through universities faster than any previous platform. User numbers doubled, then doubled again. Engagement wasn't just high, it was habitual. People didn't visit Facebook, they lived inside it. By the time competitors reacted, Facebook was no longer optional. It had embedded itself into daily routines, quietly becoming infrastructure rather than entertainment. Investors saw certainty, advertisers saw precision, governments saw a tool. Each group projected its own expectations onto a system optimized for one thing only: attention. The public offering transformed Facebook from a cultural phenomenon into a financial institution. From that moment on, growth was no longer a strategy. It was an obligation. Inside the company, confidence hardened into certainty. Systems were tested, metrics were monitored. Any emerging problem appeared manageable, technical, temporary. The dominant story became self-reinforcing. Facebook connected people. Engagement meant relevance. Scale meant success. Questioning that logic felt unnecessary. At this point, nothing suggested danger. The platform was expanding. Revenue was climbing. Influence was unmatched. From the outside, Facebook looked unstoppable. As Facebook matured, priorities narrowed. Success became measurable, and what could be measured most easily began to matter most. Engagement was clear, fast, and comparable. It told leadership what people clicked, shared, and reacted to, without asking why. Internally, teams were rewarded for growth. Systems were tuned to amplify whatever held attention longest. Over time, optimization became automatic. The platform did not judge content, it ranked it. Emotionally charged material simply performed better, and the system responded accordingly. Researchers inside the company noticed patterns. Polarizing posts traveled farther. False information moved faster. But the findings arrived without urgency. These weren't framed as existential threats. They were categorized as trade-offs, side effects, issues to be refined, not confronted. Inside a company built by engineers, every problem looked technical. If something went wrong, it could be adjusted later with the right model. Meanwhile, growth continued without friction. Nothing broke, no alarms sounded. From a business perspective, the system was performing perfectly. Without a single meeting or announcement, a trade-off was accepted. Reach was prioritized over reliability, speed over verification. Nothing collapsed at this moment, but the direction was set. And from here on, every decision would follow the same logic, whether anyone noticed or not. As scrutiny increased, pressure came from every direction. Advertisers wanted reach, users wanted relevance, regulators wanted answers. The system had to prove it could regulate itself. The solution wasn't to slow growth, it was to redefine it. Engagement was reframed as meaningful interaction, a term broad enough to preserve scale. From a technical perspective, the change was elegant. The system would elevate content that generated reactions, discussion, and time spent. But emotional intensity was indistinguishable from quality. Outrage, fear, and conflict naturally rose to the top, because they always perform. Once deployed globally, the new ranking system became foundational. Revenue adjusted around it. Teams optimized for it. Reversal now meant disruption at every level. At Facebook's scale, small design choices don't stay small. They multiply, intersect, and amplify across cultures, languages, and political systems. Concerns still existed, but once the system proved profitable and defensible, dissent became informational, not decisive. This is how path dependence forms. Early choices constrain future ones, not because alternatives disappear, but because their cost becomes unacceptable. At this stage, meaningful intervention would have required sacrificing engagement, revenue, and growth, all at once. No institution volunteers for that. The system was now self-reinforcing. What followed wouldn't be an accident, a breach, or a surprise. It would be the predictable result of a decision already made. What had once been internal metrics and abstract risks began surfacing in public. Stories emerged not as theories, but as observable patterns spreading faster than corrections could follow. False narratives moved with unprecedented speed, not because people believed them immediately, but because the system rewarded reaction over reflection. Online amplification spilled into offline reality. Political tension, social division, and coordinated misinformation no longer stayed confined to screens. Ironically, the very signals designed to indicate success now reflected instability. Engagement surged, but for the wrong reasons. Inside the company, alarms finally became impossible to ignore. The data no longer suggested a potential issue. It documented ongoing harm. Regulators responded not to ideology, but to scale. When private systems begin shaping public outcomes, accountability inevitably follows. For the first time, users hesitated, not because the platform stopped working, but because its influence became visible. Public responses emphasized complexity, scale, and ongoing improvement. The language was careful, the architecture remained unchanged. Advertisers recalibrated, governments investigated, employees questioned assumptions. The cost of earlier decisions became measurable. This wasn't a technical failure. The platform still functioned. What collapsed was the belief that its scale could remain neutral. Inside the company, the atmosphere changed subtly at first. The energy that once felt optimistic became procedural. Work continued, but certainty did not. Many engineers understood the implications long before the public did, but understanding a problem is not the same as having the authority to resolve it. Leadership faced a different dilemma. Admitting structural failure meant questioning the very system that defined success. Delay became a form of self-preservation. For users, the change was harder to name. The platform still connected people, but it also exhausted them. Conversations felt sharper, trust felt thinner. The cost wasn't just institutional, it was emotional. Distributed across millions of individuals, none of whom felt responsible, but all of whom felt the impact. At this point, it's tempting to blame data misuse, bad actors, or insufficient regulation. But those explanations only describe the surface of what happened. Facebook did not fail because its technology was broken. The algorithms did exactly what they were built to do. The data was accurate. The infrastructure scaled. The failure was psychological. Success reinforced the belief that what worked yesterday would remain safe tomorrow. Growth became evidence of correctness. Human systems change slowly. Social norms, trust, and stability adapt over time. Facebook's optimization loop moved far faster, and no mechanism existed to reconcile the difference. This is why the scandal wasn't a deviation. It was the logical outcome of a system that equated engagement with value and scale with legitimacy. From the outside, what followed looked like a sudden reckoning, a scandal, a turning point, a moment when trust abruptly disappeared. But in reality, nothing about this was sudden. The outcome was decided gradually, through ordinary decisions made logically, calmly, and without resistance. This is how modern systems fail, not with crashes or chaos, but while operating exactly as intended. Facebook didn't lose control because it ignored warning signs. It lost control because success made those warnings easy to absorb, and even easier to postpone. By the time the consequences became impossible to deny, the system was already complete.